Hi, and welcome to day 34 of 365 Days of Art. You can see day 33 behind me where I picked a reference photo out and did a finger painting from it. Really enjoyed how it turned out and I want to keep experimenting. So today I'm going to do the same thing. I found another reference photo in honor of Friday the 13th and I picked out kind of a very harvest moon looking picture that I think is going to be really fantastic on the page. I'm going to free myself up today to use a couple extra instruments because there's some feathering going on in the picture that I really want to try to capture in an abstract way. So I think I'm going to pull out my palette knife and my fan brush. Let's see how it goes. I hope we get something really cool. Let's paint. Here we go. At the beginning here, I'm just super roughly trying to determine where that moon went according to the photo. Little off center. I'm using our Arteza colors for this, and right now I'm trying to just block in the colors first this time rather than just going for it. So we're gonna see how that turns out. And fill in with all the brown. There we go. Went ahead and sped forward through that. You guys didn't need to see me just put in all the brown, adding in the black. And this is one of the first decisions where I really like how I blocked the color in, and you can see the nice gradient. When I go to start putting in more black, I think I did use a little bit too much. So with this finger painting that I've been trying to develop / use, I'm learning that you have to have enough paint on the page to smoosh it around and be able to create, all those swirling effects and have the paint retain where your fingers have been. However, you don't want to use so much that you just muddy your colors. And here's something else I want to try differently is with the moon. So I think I actually got some nice gradient going on in that background, but it would look a little cleaner if I could sharpen up the edges of the moon. And I don't know if I want to do that with tape. I've seen artists kind of like contact paper, I'm pretty sure, where they put it usually around the outside of the painting to create interesting shapes if you wanted to create a circle on the canvas or something like that. I'm wondering if I can employ the same technique to get clean edges for different parts of the painting. If I want that swirling effect, but I still want a hard edge, it's definitely going to be an area that I have to tape off. I also need to play more with layers. That's the other tricky part of what I've been doing here, is that you want the paint obviously wet enough that you're swishing it around, but you have to very carefully think about what colors need to be able to blend together, because if I do it in a layer, let's say I let that background dry and then I go to do the moon, well then what's going to happen is my moon's going to be I wouldn't get that swirling effect around it where the shading is happening. So it's a good example where I could do the shading and blend it out with all the paint still wet, maybe wait for it to dry, and then go in with harder edges and fix what was happening with the moon there. Maybe scrape some of the paint away. And here I'm starting on kind of like, I want to say these were harvest grasses, I think. So I mostly did them in black, which is really hard for you guys to see, and that's why I'm wondering if I did my background maybe just a little too dark. But where I started to put in that copper gold, that's where the highlights are from the moonlight. And that's something else that I realize I should have done is I didn't quite get my moon color correct. It got a little muddied, and I should have gone in with that copper at the beginning before I started on the reed so that I could have swirled it out into the background and had some more highlights rather than trying to work around the wet paint and not mess up anything that I had previously done. So this is just where I like to pretend that I know what I'm doing. As we all do, right? I think the only people that confidently know what they're doing don't know anything. The more you learn about something, I feel like the more that you're skeptical about your own abilities because you're aware that you can always do better, which is not a bad thing. Just don't forget to appreciate how far you've already come. So this is the piece. I decided not to continue to overwork it. There was already some steps that needed to be done differently, but this was a really great learning piece. I had fun. I dove into what I knew was going to be a more difficult picture, and that's okay. I saw the challenge and I was like, yeah, I'm going to give that a shot. And it went okay. This was just practice. My highlight for today is that I love you being able to see the comparison of the two pictures. I'm really happy with how the top one came out, and there's a lot of potential there. And there's a lot of mistakes in this one. There's still some potential there, but you know, it's not quite the effect of that top one, and that has a variety to do with just color and composition and maybe some layers that need to happen instead. Definitely gonna play with it. But what I want to draw attention to is that you can obviously have days where something goes really right with the new technique and you're like, oh my goodness, this is my thing, I'm getting into it, and then you come back the next day and you're like, what happened? Why didn't this work? And that's just part of practicing. That's why I encourage do art or do whatever it is you want to do to get better at, and do that every day, even just in little ways, because you have to give yourself time to actually expand and play and do things that aren't going to work. That's all part of the learning process. It's not a mistake and it's not a bad thing to happen. Whereas if you don't do things too often, you're like, I only do it once in a blue moon. There's so much pressure when you sit down, you're like, this has to be perfect. I only do this like maybe once every couple of months. And then it's so frustrating when it doesn't go the way that you want it to go. So take a deep breath and try to make time for the things that you're wanting to get better at, that you really love in your life, even if it's a couple of minutes sitting down and doodling and just getting the bad ideas out or the jitters or whatever it is that you need to do, so that when you sit down to an actual bigger project, you feel better and you don't feel all that pressure of the fact that you feel like it has to be perfect. I personally think that actually helps. I would love to know what you're getting up to. Hit me up down in the comments. If you enjoyed today's video, please hit the like button. If you'd like more content, subscribe to my channel. I post videos daily. Bye!